Okay, let's dive in. The cost of making a life in Canada. I mean, it's a real challenge, isn't it? Especially if you're just arriving maybe from Punjab or Haryana.
Absolutely. It's more than just a news story for many people. It's their everyday struggle.
And that pressure, it sometimes leads people to find, well, really unique ways to cope.
Yeah, truly unconventional.
Which brings us to our topic today,
Hmm.
hotbedding. It sounds strange, and frankly, it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
At the heart of this is a woman named Monique Jeremiah, 37 years old, in Canada. She got a lot of attention for a very, very unusual way she started making money.
Right.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack what Monique actually did. The details of this hotbedding arrangement, how it worked, and also why it kicked up such a fuss.
And we're looking at a specific source for this, right?
Yeah, mainly a News 18 article. The title pretty much sums it up. Hotbedding. Woman makes $50,000 by renting out half her bed. Cuddling is allowed.
Wow. Okay, that title alone tells you it's quite a story.
It really does. So let's get into the background. What led Monique to this point?
Well, the News 18 report suggests it was a perfect storm, really. It highlights how, economic hardship can spark some pretty out there innovation.
Innovation born of necessity, maybe.
Exactly. So during the COVID lockdowns, Monique apparently lost her job.
Okay, tough timing.
And on top of that, she went through a breakup. So suddenly, just covering the rent, which is already high in many Canadian cities, became this huge, urgent problem.
Right. Job loss, breakup, pandemic lockdown.
Yeah,
That's a lot to handle at once.
it really is.
So the solution she came up with, renting out half her bed,
Yeah.
it's definitely unexpected.
It takes shared living to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're used to roommates, maybe sharing a room even, but sharing a bed, that's extremely close quarters.
It is. And the article suggests it was a very direct response to that fundamental need for shelter, just taken to an extreme, maybe.
How does she even go about it?
According to News 18, she advertised it online, and apparently the rate she set was quite modest, designed to be affordable.
Interesting. So maybe aimed at others also feeling the financial squeeze.
That seems plausible, yeah. It suggests she understood the kind of financial pressure others might be under, too.
And the results? The article makes a pretty bold claim about the income.
It does. The figure mentioned is up to $50,000 per month.
50,000 a month just from renting half a bed?
That's the figure reported in the article, yeah. It's a number that definitely makes you pause.
It really does. I mean,
mean,
how is that even possible? It makes you wonder about the demand, I guess.
It certainly points to the potential desperation for affordable accommodation, perhaps, and maybe what value people place on even a small slice of living space if other options just aren't there.
True. But even setting aside the exact dollar amount, the core idea is that this seemingly bizarre arrangement actually provided her with significant financial relief.
That seems to be the key takeaway from her perspective, yes. It solved a major problem for her during a really difficult period.
Okay, but let's talk practicality. Or maybe the impracticality. Sharing a bed with presumably strangers,
Mm-hmm.
the immediate question is boundaries, right?
Absolutely crucial. And the News 18 article does get into that. It mentions Monique was quite clear about setting rules.
Like what kind of rules?
Well, the framework seems really important here. The article specifically highlights that things like physical contact, even cuddling, which was mentioned in the headline.
Yeah, that part stood out.
Right. It
Yeah.
was only allowed if there was mutual agreement. Explicit consent was required.
Okay, so she tried to formalize it, put up some guardrails.
It seems like a conscious effort, yes.
Right.
Trying to establish and maintain respect within what is, let's face it, a very, very intimate setup.
An attempt to navigate a potentially awkward or even risky situation,
Mm-hmm.
but still, an idea like hotbedding. He was bound to stir things up. The article mentions the controversy, right?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't universally accepted as just a clever hack.
What were the main worries people had?
The big ones highlighted were pretty predictable. Personal safety, first and foremost.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Sharing such a personal space with people you don't know well, it naturally raises questions about security, vulnerability, and then privacy, of course.
Definitely.
Beyond the immediate practicalities, there were also sort of broader societal questions like, is this appropriate? Could it lead to exploitation or put people in precarious situations?
Those are really valid concerns. You wouldn't want this to become some kind of normalized, potentially unsafe situation.
Exactly.
But interestingly, the article also said it wasn't all negative reactions. Some people were actually supportive.
That's right. That's the other side of the coin. The fact that some people apparently backed her up and maybe even shared similar experiences.
Wait, others have done this too?
The article implies some people related to it, suggesting it might not be entirely unique, even if it's not mainstream. It indicates that for some, it's seen as a practical, maybe even necessary solution when money is incredibly tight.
So a willingness to push boundaries, maybe traditional boundaries, when options are limited.
It seems that way, yeah. A sign of people exploring really non-traditional ways to generate income or just cut down costs dramatically.
So if we zoom out a bit, like the News 18 piece suggests, Monique's story isn't just some isolated weird anecdote. It potentially taps into a larger trend.
I think that's how the source frames it. Hot bedding is presented almost as a symptom, an indicator of the severe financial pressures people, especially maybe new migrants, are facing.
Right, trying to get established in expensive countries like Canada.
Precisely. It really underscores this increasing need to find creative, sometimes quite unexpected, ways to just achieve basic financial stability.
And the fact that News 18 featured it on their viral page. That says something too, doesn't it?
It does. It means the story resonated, it got shared, people were talking about it, particularly perhaps within India and the diaspora, where discussions about the costs and challenges of moving abroad are probably very common.
So it hit a nerve. People recognized something in it, even if the specifics were extreme.
It suggests that Monique's situation, while maybe unique in its details, touched on a wider experience of financial struggle and the kind of resourcefulness needed to navigate life abroad.
Okay, so let's quickly recap. We've looked at Monique Jeremiah's hot bedding idea, basically renting half her bed as a direct response to falling on hard times.
Yeah, losing her job, a breakup, needing to pay rent.
And it apparently brought in a surprisingly large income, though that specific $50 K figure still feels, well, remarkable.
Remarkable, yes. But it definitely came with controversy. Big questions around safety, privacy, appropriateness.
But also some seeing it as a pragmatic, if unconventional solution.
And ultimately, it shines a light on just how far people might adapt when facing tough economic realities. It hints at maybe a shift in how we think about housing, income, personal space even.
Right, especially with living costs seemingly always on the rise.
Mm.
So here's something to leave you thinking about. What does it really tell us about our current economic climate, about city living, when renting out half a bed becomes a viable, talked-about strategy?
It's a powerful question.
And as costs keep climbing, what other completely unexpected, maybe even boundary-pushing solutions might we start seeing people come up with just to make ends meet? What's next?